I was born in a place called Shirebrook, which split Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire up, a little mining village. And I'm 1934. That was born. Yeah.
And your mother and father's names, and what were their
Elizabeth
jobs?
and William.
And the jobs were, what type of jobs did they do?
Well, my father came from Stoke. Things weren't going so well in the Midlands in those days, and in our area they opened a new coal pit, and of course people came from everywhere to it, and that's how, as I say, my father came from Stoke, and my mother obviously came from Shirebrook itself, the village.
And brothers and sisters?
I have one brother. Well, I had one brother. He was 10 years older than me. So in a sense, I didn't really know. It wasn't like having a brother. It's like having an uncle in those days. Yeah.
And where did you go to school? What were your schools?
Secondary modern school. Yeah, just short of like the big schools. Yeah.
When you were at school, Ray, obviously you did PE and things like that as children do today. When did somebody sort of realise that you had this ability to be a gift to be?
Well, I used to play in the school I went to. Was a secondary modern school, and they were built up from 5 or 6 villages in that area. So there was quite a number of people who came. And I actually was in the under 15 when I was 11. It came naturally to me, the game, and when I look back at it, I go, ooh, that was wonderful. But it was just natural to me. I used to just go out and play, and 11-year-old against like 15. All I used to remember doing was like standing on the halfway line. I used to play inside left in them days, and looking at the defenders, and some of them were bloody 5'10" or what have you. And being only 11 or 12-year-old, yeah.
So you started actually your career as an inside forward.
I get inside forward, yeah. Like I said, I was playing under 15 team when I was like 11-year-old, and we're a small village in Derbyshire. We actually won the Derbyshire Cup, and I remember playing at Derby County in the final, and I was I'd only be about 5'2" or what have you, and I haven't any photographs of it, which is a shame really, but I can remember standing there in our team, and I was like there, and everybody, all the other lads was up there. But I obviously was actually good without knowing or bragging about it. It just came so natural to me.
How were you academically at school?
Average. I think pretty average, and I think the main reason for that was that I didn't put everything into it. When it came round to doing like exams and what have you, I'd push myself like to do that. But I said that was certainly wasn't going to help me in any sort of career after that was gone by.
Who was it at school then? At school, did somebody see you playing? I mean, to get you into your first
one of the school teachers actually proed for Mansfield at that particular time, and he knew the manager from Mansfield had moved. A fellow called Goodall had gone to Huddersfield, and this chappie rung him up, and I went across, and I played this one game and got into the team. I didn't. It is one of those things. I was never felt I was gifted. It was only like later on in life that I realised that I had something that other people didn't have.
Who was it that then realised as you went to Huddersfield? You obviously went to Huddersfield as an inside forward.
Yes.
Who was it there that realised that I can see something in this boy that?
Well, this was Roy Goodall, who was the coach. He actually played right back for England, and he was actually the captain of the England team. So he must have seen something and it was actually in those days where that again was a bit of luck why I came to be a full-back. I was on the ground staff, and the left back who at Huddersfield at that time was a fella called Noel Kelly, who actually played for Wolverhampton and got transferred to Huddersfield. And in those days you didn't have to move from city or town to town. He used to train at Wolverhampton and then travel up and play for Huddersfield and so on. And I used to just bang in for him on the Tuesday morning, like playing left back. So somebody must have seen something. I mean, I was an inside forward. I mean, I laugh and joke about it now. I started off as inside forward, then I went to outside left, and then I went to left half, and then I went to left back. And my next bloody move was get on your bike.
You mentioned you were on the ground staff at Huddersfield.
Yes.
Does that mean you were an apprentice, or did they?
I was an apprentice. I didn't sign. Then of course I did my national service. I signed pro at Huddersfield, but it was only like a semi-pro. I still had to go in on every day on the morning and clean either the pitch or sweep the.
Oh, so basically an apprentice's job was just to do the odd jobs around the ground then?
Oh, absolutely nothing. In those days, it was absolutely nothing to do with playing football. Yeah, you just swept. You swept all around the thing. We used to wash all the gear for the players. You used to break the senior players in. You used to break their boots in for them. Yeah, there were 5 or 6 of them at Huddersfield at that time. Who took between 6 and 7, and I used to break the bloody boots in for them. Yeah.
Huddersfield were a real top side.
Absolutely, they won the first division in the 2030s in 3 times on the trot. I mean, they were like the millionairos at that time, and they still are. It's still a smashing pitch now, and I mean I do go occasionally. I mean it's just a shame that they aren't in. I really think they should be in the top 2nd or bordering on first division. When I look in the paper, this disappointing thing about that is they're sitting in the bottom half of the league that they're in, and they're getting 3 and 4 thousands more than people coming to watch, like going to Tranmere, and so I keep thinking, why don't we spend some bloody money and get some players in? So it's unfair on the people.
How old were you when you made your debut then for your actual league debut for?
At Huddersfield.
At Huddersfield. Yeah.
Well, I would certainly be. I'd be about 20. I would be 21 because I did national service. I mean, in those days that was a big thing, against soccer players. Taking you out at 18, and then you come back at 20. I mean, the club had to sign you. They had to give you. I'm not sure how many months it was. I think even if you were serving the apprenticeship at anything, be what it was, the firm that you worked for had to keep you for 6 months. And of course, when I came back, when you think about it in football, 2 years is a long time. The manager can be gone, and the secretaries and everything. So when I came back to Huddersfield after 2 years, because I didn't. They sent me out to bloody Egypt. Most. When you look, most of the professional footballers in those days were almost sent to next door of the club they played for. But I wasn't as famous as people like Bobby Charlton and what have you. I mean, they used to come and play for Manchester United or whatever, but it was a long way from Egypt.
So, well, who did you serve? Which regiment were you in?
26th Field Regiment.
Royal Engineers or? Artillery?
Artillery, yeah.
You played for the army side, I take it, when...
Well, out there I did, yeah. But we had a pretty decent team, and all the pitches were on sand, except for in one of either in the city or whatever. They did play on grass, and we got we played Cyprus, the international team, and we beat them. We beat them 4-1. And I scored that trick in that, yeah. And that was it. That was an international team, and kids at like 18. It just shows you how in those days, like the national service, we had some super players.
When you were playing, was it the hard leather football with the laces you were playing with, or had that gone out?
Absolutely. That's why I'm really struggling with the. Well, that's why I'm taking Arasets and what have you, for dementia. Yeah. So, well, people talk. I mean, I remember not too long ago when somebody who'd been playing said the thing about heading the ball, what have you, did cause problems to your brains. And this doctor said, I'm being blunt here, he said, well, load of bollocks, he says the balls are light as feather. One the bloody light as feather when I played, they weighed a ton. I mean, there were no cover on them. They were just leather. So when you went out onto the pitch, and they didn't cancel games in them days. You played in 6 foot of mud, and the ball was like bloody lead, and the lace was in there. So you had to head that. I mean, and nearly most of the centre halves and what would come off the pitch in sort of conditions with blood running down there and what have you.
So when the ball got wet, obviously, yes, it
like bloody lead,
went
yeah,
like a,
yeah, because it just soaked the water in. Nowadays it don't. You see, it just runs off it.
Now, when you played for Huddersfield, you played against Everton, or did you? Did you play against Everton?
I played against them a couple of times, but only in the reserves. I didn't play against because they actually was the first division. They came out of the second division, didn't they, Everton? Yeah. But when I remember Huddersfield playing against Everton because they did come down in the second division for a little while, didn't they?
So, I mean, what was your first memories then of playing at Goodison? Would that be with Huddersfield, or would that be when you played for Everton?
I actually don't think. I think I might have only played once at Goodison, like with the reserves. Because that was the only way because Huddersfield were a second division team. It was a good move for me because I'd 30 odd caps at Huddersfield. I'd never played. I think I had 2 first division games in the very early days with Huddersfield, and I'm going back again to how things have improved. The England team, when I first got into the England team, there were more second division players in the England team than there was first division players. The main reason for that, once you signed a contract in those days, you signed for life. You couldn't say, right, I'm signing and I'm going, my contract's up now, I'm going. They just said, yes, your contract is up, you're going nowhere. You can't play for anybody else, and that was it. The only time that they passed you on was the fact that when you got to like 28, 20. I mean, I was 28, running 29 when I came to Everton. Yeah.
How much were you on then at Huddersfield? How much was the pay? You remember?
I was on £40.
£40 a week.
Yeah. That was when it moved from 20 to anything. And when I came here, I was on 50.
So, did you sign? Did you have to negotiate contracts, or was that?
Well, it was at that particular time. I think most players were just quite happy to sign, like to get a year's wages anyway. And I never haggled or what have you. When we won the World Cup, my contract was up at Everton, and I went in, and I could, like sitting in here, and Harry passed me the thing across, and I signed it, and he says, bloody hell, he said, I thought I was going to have a bit of trouble here with you, all that. I said, well, that's up to you. I think I put him in his place. I said, well, if you thought I was worth more than I've just signed for, that's your bloody fault, not mind, because I didn't want to angle about anything like that. That was good wages in them days, and I just enjoyed playing football. And
but Harry Catterick was after you for some time, wasn't he?
Harry Catterick was yes.
He tried to sign you when he was at Sheffield Wednesday.
When he was at Sheffield, yes, he did. Because Huddersfield and Sheffield were pretty close together, and he was a good manager.
When you left Huddersfield, I mean, to come to Everton, although Huddersfield was a big club in those days, we all accept that. Was the regime here a lot different? Was it a lot stricter or was it harder training?
Anything was much more professional here than it was at Huddersfield. The difference. Well, nearly everybody were international players at that particular time. Scotland and everything.
When did you learn about Everton's interest? Did you and were there other clubs interested in signing you at the time?
Well, it was forever in those days when it got to that stage when I got into the England team, in a second division team, and then of course I went through and had 30 international caps, and so it was pretty obvious that the first division teams were always trying to sign me. I mean, in the local paper it was Manchester, so everybody was wanting to sign me. I mean, I can understand that now.
Was there any hesitation from you to join Everton, or?
No. I think I'd come to the stage, and then at Huddersfield that my time was up. I didn't get on too well with the manager.
And Harry Catterick didn't have to sell the club to you. You were happy to sign, even if Harry Catterick didn't have to persuade you.
I'd have walked from Huddersfield on my bloody hands and knees, to come and sign for Everton. They were the big team, weren't they? The Millionairos, and so it was good for me that.
What sort of characters were in the side in those days? Did you all get on well together?
Yes, like everything else, there's always going to be some people who don't get in, but that's just nature, isn't it? Wherever whatever you do, you get yourself blended into, like in the international teams and what have you. You do meet together, and then if you're going out for an afternoon or like for a drink when you went for a drink, you picked your mates like you always do it, and it wasn't that you didn't like the people who had gone somewhere else. They just want you in your time.
What was the training like? What was the training regime like?
Wherever
at Everton.
Well, it was excellent, without a doubt. We never used to come to Goodison. It was down at
Belfield.
At Belfield, yeah. And we used to just go there, train there, and never used to come to. Only came to the pitch when we were playing it, like every fortnight, or if it like a midweek game.
And what was the typical training? Was it running? Was it weightlifting? Was it?
Mostly running. All the other things. I think running and playing. There was one thing in the very early days when I was at Huddersfield where, for some unknown reason, was keep the ball away from them from Sunday till Thursday. It'll make them hungry for it. And when we used to go out, we used to say, "What the fucking hell is that?" and then of course when I came here at Everton, you got the bloody ball when it was Sunday morning. So then like I said, we used to say, "What's that?"
So a footballer needed the ball, basically. That's what you
exactly, like a bloody boxer or like a cricket player. They want the bat, don't they? Yeah.
When we get up to obviously your career, we get up to obviously the famous year of 1966.
Yeah.
That must have been a very proud year for you. That, and what was your views on that?
Well, I wouldn't say I was that in those particular days that I really looked forward and said I was almost sure that we would get certainly to the final. The manager was. I've got to say that I was bloody lucky to be in the England team when Ramsey was the manager there. When you look at his record at Ipswich and what have you, it's phenomenal. He thought nothing else about only football, and I suppose to be successful at that sort of level, you need that. There was absolutely no way that I would have gone on to be a manager, because I'm just the interest in it. You've got to be really bent to, to do that.
Was Harry Catterick and Alf Ramsey, did they have the same sort of different type of views?
Different altogether. Harry was the only time Harry used to put his gear on when the press was coming to. Sorry, Harry. Yeah, when we'd go out training, like when we're saying, and there used to be, I don't know if down at that training field there was like a big double window, and Harry used to be in there, and as we were running round whatever, we'd look up and Harry had come down with his training thing, and we used to say, oh, fucking press must be coming.
So Alf Ramsey was hands-on, was he?
But he was sort into the game, yeah. And to be honest, I think to be a successful manager, I think you've got to be like that, haven't you? I didn't have the equipment to take that on. Yeah.
So, first of all, you won the FA Cup with Everton in '66, didn't you? So
I'd won nothing before, of course.
Well, we'll come back to that, but we're talking about '66 at the moment. Can you remember any of the day of the cup final in '66, the FA Cup final specifically? Do you remember any of the particular day? Did you know you were going to be in the team?
In
the '66 FA Cup final for Everton, did you know you would be playing before it kicked off? When were you told? Or
well, I'm not sounding big-headed, but I was pretty sure I was going to be in the team at that particular time. I can understand some one or two players, like bordering one I'm going to be in, but I know it sounds a bit big-headed, but I just took it for granted that I was going to be in the team.
So, was there any nerves on the day? Were you nervous, Alex?
Nowhere near as nervous as I am now. So they're talking to you too.
Gordon West said he was pretty nervous before he went out. Was it obvious everyone was nervous, or?
Well, he could be a bit like that, couldn't he, Gordon? Yeah.
What was he like to play with, Gordon?
Gordon? I can remember this. I remember playing in this game with him. I can't remember who it was against. It was a Southern team. This lad, that was the lad who came here. I don't know if I talked about it. He came here from Wolverhampton.
No.
Inside forward.
No.
Begins with H.
H. We'll find his name. Sorry, Dick. Is there someone?
But what was Gordon? I mean, you obviously being a fullback, you and Gordon were quite close together. I would think. I mean, how should it?
Yeah, but the only man about this lad from Wolverhampton, one of his gifts was hitting the ball on the volley, and the ball flicked up on the edge of the box, and this lad volleyed it, and Gordon went across and flicked it over the bar. It was going into the top corner, no doubt. The ball was going like a bloody rocket, and he flicked it over the bar. And I turned to him and said, "For fuck's sake, get hold of them!" He chased me to the bloody halfway line. Harry Catterick used to send him home from training because he'd play five-a-side, And of course the lads who could play were just knocking it down again, and he used to get that bloody angry. He'd run after the ball trying to get. And Harry would come out and say, "Get your clothes on and get off."
Well, I mean, Gordon obviously had the reputation of being a character. Were there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, he still is.
Yeah. Were there other characters inside that?
I think more or less most of them. When you're looking at all the players who had played for the country, all international players, and Harry were pretty good at signing these sort of players who had this thing about I am the man and what have you. And the thing about it was he was that sort of manager where he could control like people like me. So when I look back and people say, well, he was running Huddersfield at that time. I mean, I wasn't, but that's what they would say because I was an international player. Harry Catterick never had no problem of signing somebody who they would say don't sign him, he'll ruin him. Nobody would do that with Harry Catterick. Yeah. Once you sign for Harry Catterick, he was the man, and he'd put you bloody down and what have you.
But he was a very determined man because he had the reputation, didn't he, of not telling the public who was signing until they actually had signed, and then he would announce it. So he was
well, I think he did most of the things like that. He got things done before he would say that. I mean, I think when he at that particular time with Shankly, he was the manager like over at Liverpool, and I'd played with Shankly when he was manager at Huddersfield Town. Totally different people. You know, when I look back and think, what makes a manager? What makes a good manager? And when you see Shankly, and then you see Harry Catterick, totally different. Harry just picked his people who was going to be coaching or what have you, and he picked his players, and you get on with it. Never came and bothered. Now Bill Shankly had to be everywhere. Playing five-a-side with him and what have you. Because when I was at Huddersfield, and he came to Huddersfield as assistant manager, and the first the time I noticed he came to us maybe like Tuesday afternoon, and he said, "Right, you back this afternoon, and you, and pick five players, and you, right, back this afternoon." And when we go, well, bloody, what we done? I haven't done anything bloody wrong. What is that? Anyway, when we turned up in the afternoon, we go out onto the field. There were 4 bloody Scotsmen and him, and 5 Englishmen, yeah. And here we are at Hampden Park, England versus Scotland, and we used to bloody play till they won. we used to play till it was dark. Until we got on and said, no, let them win and let him score winning goal. Let's get off home.
But I have to say, with 66, I mean, obviously with winning the FA Cup, World Cup medal, was it difficult then? You were so well known. Was it difficult to sort of go out? Could you have a private life, or was it difficult? You'd be recognised.
Well, there were massive difference between here and Huddersfield. I think in a sense that was probably the main reason why when I went back there, because I've never been one for what you may call enjoy. I mean, I'm quite happy about people coming to me and saying so and so and so and so. But I have a problem with trying to cope with that all the time, and it was difficult to not for it to happen here, because you couldn't go. You can't go anywhere. I mean, I tried to keep myself over the year, and whenever I come here probably like once a year, or sometimes once every 2 years, and I get off the bloody train at Lime Street there, and the people waiting for me to sign things. And I'm saying, no, bloody, I didn't even know my way here. And they know I'm coming.
I mean, how did you find, with the Everton fans, they were obviously very loyal to you. How did you get on with them? Did you find them
Well,
very good?
I had a pretty poor start, to be honest. I came here late in me. I mean, 29 and what have you. And I got injured after about the third game, and it was a serious injury. I was pretty unlucky throughout the career. I was never one of people who would miss a game and then play. Every time I did have a serious injury, I was out for bloody 3 months and in those days, when you had your knee opened up, you know that now they have the knee done and in a fortnight they're playing. I mean, you were bloody a month before you got out of bed. In those days, you're almost finished. So that was disappointing for me, and I really had to start again and win the people over.
And you mentioned about injuries. I mean, in those days, there wasn't the sprays and stuff. I think they called it the magic sponge. What was that like if you were injured on the pitch?
Well, the guy who came on running on and giving a treatment, only a bloody old player for the team, wasn't they? But I wonder if he was a doctor or anything. I mean, it's actually in those days when people did have a serious knee injury that you were finished.
So you mentioned about you played for England when you're playing for Huddersfield. Was that a big big jump then? If you're playing for Huddersfield, they were in the second division then.
Second division, yeah.
So to play for Huddersfield and then suddenly jump to play for England, was that a big?
No, it wasn't, because when I went down in those days, I'm talking about, I played in the World Cup previous to 66. I played in the 62 thing. There were more second division players in the England team than there was first division players.
So the setup was.
Well, purely and simply in those days, which wouldn't stand up in court today, is once you signed at 17 as a professional for a football club, you signed for life. At the end of the year, your contract might be up, but the club either said, we're signing you or you're not signing you. You couldn't go in saying, right, the contract's up, I'm going. They said, you're going nowhere. And there were some team players tried it at that particular time, but then the club couldn't earn any money because the club kept the contracts. I mean, it wouldn't stand up in court today, would it?
No. I mean, you mentioned you played in the 62 World Cup finals.
I did, yeah.
Where was that held?
In Chile.
In Chile. So what was that like then, going to Chile to play in the World Cup finals?
What was it like? But like I was saying before, I mean, it just came natural to me. I expected to play in finals and I expected to play for. I mean, I'm not being big-headed, but I think you've got to have that sort of confidence to survive anyway.
I mean, you know, the sort of play. Actually, the heat in Chile must have been. Did they give you time to acclimatise?
Oh yes, we went out there previous to that. We played a game on I can't remember who it was against. On his way out to South America. But it was. I mean, it's staggering how different things are now. We, as the players, when we got there, we got shipped out to. I was in digs in somebody's house. Like I can't remember who the player was, and they rented you out to. Then we went into training, then we went back, and the pitch we played on in the qualifying games was. I think the gates were about 2,000 to 3,000 people there. You know, you're playing against Brazil and Hungary. Yeah.
I'll just.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
I'll get you there.
Yeah.
Raid like a drink if.
Yeah.
What
do you want?
A bottle of wine, please.
Yeah, we did ask.
So.
We're back on.
Yeah, we're back on. So the 62 World Cup final. I mean, explain how far England got for someone like myself, who I wasn't even born. So, how far did England get, and did you?
We got into the quarter-finals and we got knocked out by Brazil, who were the number one team in those days.
That would be with Pelé in the side.
Yes, Pelé and they were all international players, and we all I think we lost maybe 4 or something like that, but we held them for quite a while in that game, and in the qualifying games, Hungary they were number 1 or 2, and we put them out.
Would that be Puskás?
Yes, Puskás, and when they were playing, yeah.
I mean, what was it like playing against the real likes of Pelé and Puskás? Did they come at you directly at times?
And it never entered my mind in those days whoever was playing against. If you're actually going onto the field and you're going to wet your knickers over something like that, well, you shouldn't be on the bloody pitch anyway, shouldn't you? I mean, I didn't give 2 monkeys who I was playing against. I mean, but more reputation, the person who I was playing against was better for me.
That was a red rag.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's what makes a good professional player. You don't want to be going onto the field and being frightened to death of the person you're playing against. Yeah.
But I mean, the likes of Pelé, did he have a presence on the field? Did you say? Yeah,
well, when I played against him, he would only be in his teens. I mean, it was later where he developed. Yeah, but they were a magnificent team.
Yeah. So you came back from there and you were still playing for Huddersfield then?
Still playing with Huddersfield, yeah.
So to play in the World Cup final and
then go back play in the second division, difficult. And I can't say I continually did it, but I almost got on my hands and knees and asked the club to go. And a lot of supporters and what have you. And because in the local paper and I have it, saying I was big-headed little twat, and I mean I can understand that, but it's like anything in any job, your job and your job. If you've got the equipment and you know that you're good at it, then you should have the right to get and play with these teams. Or if you don't want to go, well, that's I wanted to. I wanted to be the best fullback. I wanted to play with the best. Nothing wrong with that. Whatever job you do, is it? Now, if you're prostitute and what have you.
Now, you played with Brian LeBone at Everton and Jack Charlton for England. I mean, they were probably two of the best centre backs.
Yeah,
I mean, did they have the similar styles, or were they totally different?
Totally different. Yeah, totally different. I think Brian, I think was a bit happier on the ball than Jack, but by far Jack was a better defender than. You know what I mean. Brian, I mean, cracking me when I look back and I think what a life he had, Brian. And I think I had the chance to do it myself when I signed for Huddersfield, and that guy from Everton was trying to sign, and I often think, bloody hell, I could have been like Brian. I mean, signing for this club when you're 17 and 18 must have been wonderful, especially in them days.
I mean, both of them looked as though that they gave other players the confidence why they were rock steady. Was that your impression of the two of them, that if they were on the pitch, we were the defence?
Yeah, well, fullbacks at that particular time were all about your centre back. You came if the ball was on the left hand side. Then, being a left back, I'd come round and cover for the ball coming across them too. But they were both pretty good in the air, Brian and. But when I look back at that, I mean that must be really wonderful to sign at 17 for a club like this and see your time instead of playing for bloody like second division teams and third division and fourth division teams, which I didn't.
How did you get on when you were here, Ray? With the Everton fans, were they good to you? And
yes,
did you enjoy
yeah. I think they were a little suspicious about me when I first came, because I got a serious injury after about the third game of the season, and then when I came back on again, obviously I know it was going to take me 3 or 4 months, because it was a serious knee injury that I had, and it took me a little while to win over the people, and I actually don't think it was the World Cup that brought that. I think it was my performances for the club.
Were there any particular games that stick out in your mind? Was there, I played the blinder in that particular game? Can you remember anything like that? Or?
Well, I never scored any goals here. I was in there. So no. I mean, I scored a few goals when I was at Huddersfield, like from full back. But you didn't have to. You didn't have to go over the halfway line. Crikey, I mean, they had that much bloody money. They were all I mean, every time we went out on the pitch in those days, they were all international players, and 3 or 4 of them sat on bench.
I mean, they didn't have substitutes in those days, did they, or was it just the one you had?
No, they didn't have. No, there were no subs. If you got injured, you stayed on, and that was the good thing about bringing new players on, is because most of the serious players. I mean, when I was talking about my knee, I had to stay on the. I got my knee injury after about a quarter of an hour. Then I've got to spend an hour and a quarter bloody limping and somebody kicking you, and you're still trying to play, and so you're going to do more damage to your knee than. But and if your knee came off, well, then the club was down to 10 players, and 9 times out of 10, the people who were playing with the man short used to lose the game. And that, in a sense, that was unfair on the bloody people who paid money to go and watching it. So the good thing about that was and I'm quite happy about saying, right, you're off and you come on. That again is better for the people.
Will there be times then that you had an injury, but you thought, if I say to the manager I'm injured, I'll be out the side, I won't get back in? Were there times where you played with a hidden injury, if you see what I mean?
No, I never tried to. If I was injured, I would come out clean with it. If it happened like throughout the week, like I said, because what's the point in those days is going on the pitch and you thinking yourself, it's only going to last 10 minutes anyway. Then you're letting all the team down. Yeah, I mean, I can see them doing that today, saying, right, I'll go on. If they get half an hour off me and my knee goes, well, somebody else is going to replace me. But couldn't be replaced in those days.
So in those days, it had to be a team game. It couldn't be, I'm the big I am. It had to be a team.
Well, I think you do get that. You get some players who are going to run the team. But I was never one of them people.
So can you remember? You said you're 50 quid a week. When you played for Everton,
big money in those days. Yeah. I was on £40 at Huddersfield. Yeah.
And did you get more money for winning the game, or?
Well, it was £4, £4 and £2. Yeah.
£4 for a win.
4 for a win and 2 for a draw. Yeah.
Was there anything in those days with crowd bonuses? I mean, there used to be. Was it in your time?
There was at some clubs, but they didn't do it here. Like I was saying, like benefit games and what have you, they didn't. Harry Catterick didn't. I mean, whoever he signed and what have you, paid them more than you would get if you were playing for another club, and that was it. There were no testimonial games, unless you'd finished early in your career and it damaged, and then you would get one.
Now, who were your apprentices when you played for Everton? Were there any, apprentices who made it into the first team?
Well, I think most. I'm trying to think now. I mean, when I just came here, Colin Harvey had just come through that, and Tommy. Yeah,
Tommy Wright.
Tommy Wright. They were just they were coming on the scene. Well, me and Tommy, like played international games together, and but they came up through that. Yeah.
And they were your apprentices. So they break your boots in then? Did someone break your boots in?
In those days, no, not at Everton, not at Everton.
Did you have one? How many pair of boots would you have? Would you just have one or two per a season, or?
You tried to hang on. Like I say, when I was at Huddersfield, I mean, most of my time I was breaking bloody boots in for first team players. They were difficult to break in them days. I mean, today you can actually put them on Monday and you know they're going to be all right for Saturday. It'd take you 2 or 3 months out, to break the old ones in.
Well, how many a season would you have? Would you have the same pair, or would you?
I used to try and let it see the season out. One pair, yeah. It's a little bit like a superstitious thing, these are my boots. I don't change them for anything else.
Yeah. Did you talk about that? Did you have any superstitions yourself before games?
I don't know. I mean, I may have without doing it. But I mean, a lot of people, a lot of players, would sit there and then I'll put my left boot on before my right boot, and so yeah. And then 10 minutes before, then I'll put my knickers on.
But what was the sort of programme for the day? I mean, if you were playing, say, at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, what would your day be like? What time would you be up? What time would you be up early morning?
Like everything else, you're up early, and I mean that's natural, isn't it? When you wake up and you're not in, and I used to find it boring, and I couldn't wait for the time to go by quickly, and because like there's nothing you can do, and I used to find the worst thing was the night games. When you're playing at Portsmouth or somewhere like that, and what do you do? And you spend, you spent most of your time like playing cards. And
were you told on the day you're in the team, or were you, did you have, again, like you're saying, for the cup final, you knew you were going to be in the team. So basically, when the team sheet came out, you knew you were on it.
Yeah, being a bit big-headed, yeah, I think you'd be disappointed if you wasn't. As a player, you're going to know if you're going to be in the team.
Could you complain if you weren't? Did you complain? No, you wouldn't risk it.
Never complained to anybody when I was a player.
Now, you mentioned about the boots. Did you have to buy your own, or did the club buy them?
You did. When I went to Huddersfield, you had to pay for your boots. Yeah, unless you was a serious professional.
But Everton bought your boots for you.
Oh yeah. I think I brought a pair with me.
Where did you live in Liverpool or on the outskirts? Or
Lydiate. Yeah. Lived out at Lydiate. In the club's. It was the club's house, and I lived in it. Yeah. I was a bit silly with that. Like I said, when I came here, I'd just bought a house at Huddersfield. Then they transferred me to. I went in and they said we sold you to Everton, and so thank you very much. Then I lost money on it because I hadn't been there that long, and then what I'd paid. So when I came here, I just lived in rented accommodation, and Harry in those days, after if you've been there a couple of years, then you got the chance to buy it at the price that they bought it. That was another good thing with the club. And I thought, well, I've risked it once and lost money, and didn't do it again.
The other thing about your playing days, did you have to maintain the weight? Were you, close season, did you, when you came back to train, did they weigh you? Did they?
Well, they used to weigh me, and I was exactly the same weight, or 10 stone 4. That was me. I was fortunate with that sort of big weight thing.
So there was no worries about you having to maintain weight then?
Oh no trouble at all.
Coming up towards the end of your career now, we'll come back to I want to come back specifically to the World Cup final, but coming up to your end of your Everton career, did you know it was coming to the end? Did you feel that's it, I'm not making it now? Or
if I could say anything about myself, I was I always knew where I was going, and if you don't know that you've got to that stage, you know, and watching everything and saying, you know, that my days are here to finish or near to finishing, then there's something the matter with you. I knew my time was up. Yeah, that's without a doubt.
Was that
common sense?
Was that a disappointment or just a matter of
absolutely,
fact?
absolutely. I mean, like I said before, I mean, I had a chance to come here, to come to the club when I was 16, 17, and when I look back at this club and my attitude to the game was absolutely bang on, right down the middle. It was a little bit like what the bloody hell I've been doing when I could have been here.
Because when you left here, you went to Oldham.
I went to Oldham. I couldn't get a club.
How would you be?
Well, I think Harry had another thing. Is when he let like senior players like myself go, he always made sure that he didn't go to a bloody decent club who were going to cause him some problem. Yeah, I finished up almost playing, Oldham. Yeah.
So
what age would you be when you left the club then?
Well, I was 29 or so when I came here. So I'd be 35. I've got to say that in those days, once you got like to 32, 33, Harry opened the door and kicked your ass and off you go. And unfortunately, I'd kept it on for a couple of years and so more than that. So I must have still been doing okay.
Did you not want to go into management when you left, or you were?
I went halfway into it. I don't think I had the equipment to do that, to be honest. If I were going to be successful at moving on from that, it would have been coaching kids. I wouldn't even want to be a member of the first team. I was much happier. Well, I went to Bradford City for a while, and I used to like train with the kids in the evening and what have you, and I was pretty good at that. But being a manager, no, that is a bloody difficult job.
When you finished playing, of course, you went into a rather unusual profession. How did that?
Well, in a sense, it wasn't, and it does sound as though it was a strange thing to do. My father-in-law was in the funeral business. In the summer, again, when we're talking about, I could not afford on my wages I got to Huddersfield. I couldn't afford on the wages you got in the summer. I was probably on £8 a week, and married and two kids. But by the time you paid everything in the week, you had to stay in a couple of nights. I mean, things have changed, which I'm pleased it's changed. But the money wasn't good in those days.
So you for the summer job at Huddersfield, you were a funeral director, but
I used to, yeah. Well, funeral director and joiner, and I'd done that when I was a kid before I came to Huddersfield. I was doing my apprenticeship at Shirebrook, and so that wasn't difficult for me to go to another job.
So I mean that.
I did find it difficult in terms of into the funeral business, because I wanted to get all the qualifications and what have you. I actually had to go, and I sat in a room with a teacher or a couple of teachers, and 30, 40 other people. But these 30 or 40 other people were all in the teens, and I'm knocking on bloody 40, and I'm doing exams, to get, because I hadn't anything like that before.
So I wanted, as I say, I wanted to come back to the World Cup final. I mean, for someone like, to people like us that will never ever get to even anywhere near a World Cup final, describe the day if you can, if you possibly can. What the day of a cup final? What happened from?
Well, the difficult thing for me that day was killing the time and getting to the game. I roomed with Bobby Charlton in those days, and we both obviously. I mean, you can understand this. We were both awake pretty early in the morning because it's a World Cup final going. So we are human beings, you know. It's I mean, you were ready, quite happy to go on the field, but it still gets at you. And Alf was pretty good. I mean, me and Bobby set off and had a walk around the village and around the area where we stayed in. They didn't lock us up or anything like that. But it was a wonderful occasion. But we were the favourites, to be honest. I mean, the difficult thing, you know, people say, well, you won it at home. We weren't a very good team. We were a better team actually in those days, away from home. You know, the way Alf used to play. You'd get the ball off the other side and then get at them. And it was easy to do that when you're playing away from home. So we would struggle a bit trying to score goals and keep the other side out. But it was a magnificent final, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you were obviously at the far end of the pitch when Geoff Hurst scored the famous goal, the famous fourth goal, wasn't it? What could you see any of it?
Yeah, we're bloody miles over it. No, I couldn't see it. I know it's a bit of fuss made over that. It's like everything else. From one angle, it looks as though it's in there. But I think the one where they think it's not gone in is I think when it hit the bar and then went down. Their photograph or what have you is when it was coming out. I mean, if you hit something like that, and then it comes like that, doesn't it? And then it's got a spin on it. When it hits there, then it tends to go back. I couldn't honestly say. I mean, I was on the halfway line, but praying it was in. But,
and what about the famous winner of Geoff Hurst's famous winner, the one that went in the top corner and people were running on the pitch? What were your memories of that particular goal? I mean,
well, I think Geoff talks about it. I think he always says it. We're trying to bury it in the crowd behind.
were you just sort of praying that he'd score, or?
Well, I mean, it was a relief, wasn't it, to go to on his 4-2 as opposed to 3-2. I think to be honest, we were a better team than they was.
Can I just interject? So, I've had a young lad waiting out.
Yeah.
So if you can sum up, first of all, we'll finish on what you thought about playing for Everton. But specifically your career, would you change anything? Is there something you think, I had a damn good career and that's it, leave it?
Yeah, well, I'm not being unkind or unfair to Huddersfield, but I think I should have been playing in the Premier League as opposed to in the second. But we talked about that before, like international players that club wanted to hang on to you. I would have loved to have been here all the time. When I meet like Alex and whatever, and they've spent the major part of their life at a club like this. You can't lose. You can't go wrong.
And so your highlight would definitely be 1966 when you won the FA Cup and the World Cup in the same, within a few months of each other. Yeah, is that definitely?
Wanted to be yours after winning nothing previous to that. Yeah.
So 1966 is a year obviously that's going to stay with you forever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you
I won't bore the tits off everybody with it, but
and you wouldn't change that. I mean, you wouldn't say, "Oh, if I could do this, I would give up the World Cup final and the FA you'd never give up those two, the FA Cup and the World Cup in the same season.
No,
Never.
not at all. No. It'd be silly to what else is there? You know. Yeah. It was just absolutely wonderful for me to be around when the manager was top quality and the players were serious as well. I mean, most of the players in those days had walked into the rest of the world, and the serious players would anyway.